Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To the Dr. Wahid and to all my friends. We are from Group 6. We'll present to you the MedLife Pharmacy Management System. My name is Kartina binti Kamarudin and my matric number is S58953. The problem statement for the MedLife Pharmacy are the MedLife Pharmacy still does its work by manually to enter data to the book. It will be tiresome and difficult to maintain track of inventory in terms of medicine in stock, expiration date, and quantity of drugs available based on the categories and function. The pharmacy must check over the stock balance and create an approximate estimate of the amount to order. Therefore, a significant amount of time is set aside for drafting the order. To solve the problem, we built the MedLife Pharmacy Management System. By providing information and streamlining the process, this system can simplify the management of medicine inventory, tracking, and enhancing the supply of medicine products. This MedLife Pharmacy Management System provides the database to save all the medicine information, so the data will be safe and the pharmacy can search the medicine easily. The pharmacist can access prescription data throughout the system thanks to the flexibility to route workflow tasks across various platforms. The database will be beneficial to MedLife Pharmacy in a number of ways. First, it will cut down on the amount of billing and prescription mistake that a paper-based method might cause. Second, it makes it easier to create analytical medicine report and provide recommendation on what to acquire from vendors. Third, it assists pharmacies in stock control and management. It will allow the pharmacist to acquire medicine amount based on records, reducing waste and ensuring that demand is met. Last but not least, it will create a consolidated uniform system for entering and storing customer medicine and payment data. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good day to everyone. My name is Nuri Izzah Atira binti Aminuddin and my matrix number is S58944. Now I'm going to presenting about the objective of the project. The first objective is to manage the detail of the medicine, stock, inventory of the medicine, pharmacies and the sale of the product in one place so that it can be easier to access all the information. The second objective is to allow the pharmacist to get all the information of the customer in an easy but efficient way just by entering all the information into the system. The third objective is to manage and show the information and description of the medicine in the stock in an uniform and systematic way when seen it in the system. The fourth objective is to allow the pharmacist to generate and export the sale report for the detail of the medicine, the company, and also the pharmacist in a PDF document. The fifth objective is to allow the client or customer to easily give their information just by fulfilling all the simple detail form in the system. With this, the client doesn't have to waste their time like by doing for manually, like writing it in the notebook or other manual ways. And last but not least, create a database that can make and edit, add or delete in the medicine information so that the pharmacist can always get an update about all the details of the medicine without messing up all the existing data in the system.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Dana Maisara binti Arnas. Number metric S58334 are going to present about normalization and ER diagram. Okay, I will start with normalization. So for normalization is a database design technique that reduces data redundancy and eliminates undesirable character. Normalization rules divide large table into smaller table and link them using a relationship. The purpose of normalization is to eliminate redundancy of data and to ensure data is stored logically. Okay, the first step is that we need to convert the data from a normalization form to first normalization form. Okay, the characteristic of first normalization form is the data must in table format, there is no repeating group, and primary key must be identified. So in order to achieve to get the first normalization form, we have 3 steps. The first one, we must remove repeating group. Second, we must identify primary key, and third, we must identify all the dependencies. As we has marked here, this is the primary key. Customer ID and medicine ID is the primary key, and we have 3 dependencies, that is partial dependencies, here also partial dependencies, transitive dependency, and also functional dependency. Okay, here is how we can write the first normalization form. Okay, next we will convert from first normalization form to second normalization form. So second normalization form occurs only when there is a composite primary key in the first normalization form. Okay, as we can see here, this three table is the result after we have done the second normalization. There are 2 steps in order to get second normalization form. The first one is we make new table in order to eliminate partial dependencies, and then second, we need to reassign corresponding dependency attribute. Okay, any attribute that is not dependent in the partial dependency will remain in the main table. So that is why customer ID and medicine ID will remain in the main table, which we call as the sales table, while the other partial dependency has been extracted by creating a new table, that is table medicine and table customer. Okay, next we will convert the second normalization form to third normalization form. So the characteristic of third normalization form is that the data must be in second normalization form, and must have no transitive dependencies. So as we can see from the slide, there is 2 new tables, that is pharmacy table and supply table. The pharmacy ID, name and email has transitive dependencies, and the supply ID and supply name also has transitive dependencies. So that's why we extract it from the customer table and from the medicine table. So the step we need to do in order to get the third normalization form is that we need to make new table in order to eliminate transitive dependencies, and then second step 2, we need to assign corresponding dependency attribute. Okay, next is ER diagram. Okay, this is the ER diagram of MedLife Pharmacy Management System. As we can see, there is a relationship from one table to another table. This line shows the relationship between the table. As we can see here, there is one-to-many relationship between pharmacist and customer, between supplier and medicine, and between medicine to sales, and also between customer and sales. Actually, there is a many-to-many relationship also. There is between medicine and customer. We choose the sales table as the bridge table. Okay, and in each table we also have primary key and foreign key. The foreign key is the one that link from one table to another table.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nuri Izatira binti Aminuddin. My matrix number is S58944. Now I'm gonna show you a demo about the MySQL for the CRUD for our system. So firstly, we're gonna create a database, and the name of our database is MedLife Pharmacies. Next, we're gonna use the MedLife Pharmacies. So for this database, we actually have 5 tables in this database. So the name of the table that we will be using is pharmacies, customers, medicine, supplier, and sales. So now we will move to the how do we create the pharmacies table. So at here we have a pharmacist ID, pharmacist name, and pharmacist email. These are the data for the table of the pharmacies. So like here we have created the database, right? But you have to execute first before we continue to create the table. So click here, and we can see that you have a right icon at here, and after that we have to execute the use of the MedLife, and also we have the icon of the right icon. And next, we move to the table of the pharmacies. We have this, right? So after that, we have finished the pharmacies table. Now we're gonna move to the customers table. And customer table, we have the data of the customer ID, the customer name, the customer DOB, date of birth, the customer email, address, postcode, city, state, customer point, and also we have the foreign key that is pharmacy ID, like we have shown right here for the table of the customer. And now we have finished the table of the customer, right? So we're gonna move to the customer. I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say is we will gonna move to the table of the medicine. The table of medicine, we have the medicine ID, medicine category, medicine description, medicine price, medicine expired date, and also the stock quantity in the for the medicine. So we have the primary key for the medicine is the medicine ID. Oh, I'm actually forgot to mention about the pharmacy key for the pharmacies. So pharmacies, we have the pharmacist ID as the primary key. And for the table of the customer, we have the customer ID for the primary key. So as we have done and finished the medicine table, we can move to the table of the supplier. So for supplier, we have the primary key of the supplier ID, and next data we have for the table of the supplier is the supplier name, as we have shown it here. We have finished for the supplier, right? So last but not least of the table, we have the sales table. In the sales table, it have the customer ID, that is the foreign key from the table of the customer, the medicine ID, that is the foreign key from the medicine table, and the quantity, amount, and also the sale of the dates. So after we have list all the table, we're gonna execute it one by one. So we're gonna firstly execute the pharmacies first. And yeah, it has the right icon. And next, we execute the table of the customers. Also, we have the right icon. Then we create the table of the medicine. Execute it. Yeah, also got the icon of the right. Next, we're gonna execute the table of the supplier. Last but not least is we have to execute the table of the sale. Okay, we have done it. So we want to see how we have created the table, right? So we will be using the describe table. So we're gonna show the describe table for the pharmacies. We're gonna execute it first. And these are the table that we got after we executed all of the table. We have for the field, we have the pharmacist ID, pharmacist name, and pharmacist email. And this pharmacist ID is the key or primary key for this table. Next, we're gonna execute the describe customer. Yeah, we have shown it here. We have the customer ID, customer name, customer date of birth, customer email, address, postcode, city, state, customer point, and also the foreign key from the table of the pharmacist ID. Next, we execute the medicine to see, yeah, like in the field of the table of the medicine, we have the medicine ID, medicine category, medicine description, medicine price, medicine expired date, and last is the stock quantity. And of course, the medicine ID is the primary key for the table of the medicine. Next, we execute the describe table of the supplier, and we have the field of the supplier ID, that is the primary key, and also the supplier name for the table of the supplier. Next, we're gonna execute the describe table of the sales, and we have the customer ID, that is the foreign key from the customer table, medicine ID, that is the foreign key from the table of the medicine, the quantity, amount and the sale date. And these are the table for the data that we have in our database of the MySQL. Now we're gonna move to entering the information. So we're gonna use the insert into. So I'm gonna go to the table of the pharmacies. We're gonna insert the information or data to the pharmacies table. So I'm gonna use the insert into pharmacies and values. We actually have three data. That is for the pharmacist ID. I'm gonna use P4001, and for the pharmacist name, Muhammad Hashim, and the email is the hashim@gmail.com. Right here, we see that we have a three data that was put into the pharmacist table. After that, we gotta go to the insert into the customer table. So in customer table, we have 4 data and the customer ID is C101 until C104. So here we have the customer ID, the customer name, the customer date of birth, the customer email, the address, the city, the postcode, the city, the state, and also the price and the the pharmacist ID. Yeah. Okay. We have 4 details for data, and this was settled for the customer data. Now we move to the medicine table. So we're gonna insert into the medicine table. As you can see at here, we have 2 types of medicine. That is the code, that is medicine ID for this is M10001, or should I say M10001, and the name or the type of the medicine is the pharmacist medicine, and the second ID is the M10002, and the type of the medicine is GSL medicine. So here we have the I have shown it here, right? The medicine. We have the medicine description. So medicine description, here we have the average cream, Panadol, and these are the prices for the medicine. And this is the date, the expired date for the medicine. And last but not least, for the medicine table is the quantity that you have in the stock. And we have finished the data that was inserted into the medicine. Now I'm gonna go to the insert into the supplier. In the supplier, we have 2 data. Or shall I say the supplier ID? We have 2 supplier ID. And the SUP 701. I'm sorry, 701. And the second supplier ID is SUP 702. And the name of the supplier is Safwan Taufik and Amira Lydia. So these are the 2 data that was put into the table of the supplier. And last but not least, that we're gonna put the data into the table is the sales table. The sales table, we also have a two data that we have here we have the customer ID. We have the C101 and C102, and these are the medicine ID. M10001, M1002, and these are the quantity, and these are the price or amount. We have put into the table of the sales is amount, and these are the sale of the dates. So we have finished to put all of this into it, but don't forget, we firstly have to execute all of this first before we continue to see the table. Like we can see how we see as in the describe. So we can execute the pharmacist first. Yes. After that, we execute this one too. Okay. And next we're gonna execute the medicine. Insert into. And we execute the insert into of the table of the supplier. and we're gonna insert into the table of sales. Okay, now we have finished inserting all of the informations or data into the table, right? So we can, if you want to see the information that we have been insert into the table, you just have to execute the select from and choose whatever tables that you want. So firstly, I'm gonna choose the pharmacies. The table of the pharmacies, we're gonna execute it. And here, we can see the pharmacist ID. We have 3 pharmacist ID. That is P1, P4001 until P4003. Also included the pharmacist name and also the pharmacist email. And the second table that we're gonna execute to see the data or the information into the table, that is the customer. Yeah, here we can see the customer ID C1001 until C104. The customer name, the customer date of birth, the customer email, the address, postcode, city, state, customer point, and also the pharmacist ID. Next, I'm gonna execute the table of medicine to see the data of and the information that was put into the table of the medicine. We have the medicine ID M1001 until M1002, and the med category, med description, medicine price, medicine expiry date, and lastly the stock quantity. This is how we have put all of the information into the medicine. Next, we're gonna execute the what you can call the supplier table. So here we have the supplier ID, supplier name, and we have the supplier ID of SUP701 until SUP702, and supplier name Safwan Taufik and Amira Lydia. Last but not least, we're gonna execute the table of sales to see how we have put the data into it. So the customer ID, we have right here C101 until C102. The medicine ID is the M0001 until M1002. We have the quantity for C101 is 1 and C102 is 2. The amount of it is 25 ringgit and 20 ringgit, and these are the sales date for all of the sales. Now I have finished put all of the information and data into the table. Now I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna update the update the table. So I'm actually interested in updating the customer ID because actually if I make a mistake here, like we have the addresses of Taman Pasir Puteh, right? So I should put at here the Pasir Puteh, but oh my god, I actually put it as the Kota Baru. So at here I'm gonna update the name and put it into the Pasir Puteh. So how I'm gonna do it? So I have to update the customer. Why I actually use update customer? This actually to update the table. You can update a lot of type of table, but I'm gonna choose the customer table for my database and set it the city as the Pasir Puteh because I want to set it as the Pasir Puteh, not the Kota Baru, right? So where I'm gonna put it, this type of data is at the customer ID of C102. So I'm gonna execute it and it has been executed, right? So I'm gonna show you the new data that was inserted into this. So we're gonna execute the select from customer, and now you can see how where we have where, right? Here we have where customer ID is C102. So at C102 we have update the Kota Baru and change it into the Pasir Puteh. Right here you can see it, right? So this how we can update our table. Okay. Last but not least, I'm gonna delete. I'm gonna show you how we're gonna make a delete process, or how we want to delete something or data from the table. So I'm gonna use delete from. So here we're gonna use delete from customer. Why I want to delete the customer? Because like any table at here we can see it have only 2 or 3 data, right? So at here we have 4. Don't you think that it was a lot? So I'm just gonna execute or delete this C104 because I don't want this data anymore. I just want the data of the customer ID C101 until C103 only. I don't want the C104. And now I'm gonna delete from the customer because I want to delete from the table of the customer. Then where the cast name is Shafiq Haikal, the cast name of the Shafiq Haikal is at here, the C104. Why I'm not choosing to set the where the customer name to the customer ID, because I want to show you the difference. Like here, we put the customer ID, but here we put the customer name. So I'm gonna execute Shafiq Haikal, all of the information for the Shafiq Haikal. So we have to execute it, and we have the right icon, right? So now we can see the difference when we execute the select from again for the customer. And now we only have 3 data, even though at here it was shown that we have 4 data, right? So yeah, at here they insert into we have 4 data, but we have see that at this table only have 3 data. So this is the way how we can delete and update the table. So this is what we call the CRUD. That is create and retrieve, update, and also delete. And that's all for my demo for our database for the MedLife pharmacies. Thank you.
Next, for the mockup of our MedLife Pharmacy Management System, we have the homepage of MedLife Pharmacy Management System. So we have the logo of our pharmacy here, and then the login button for the pharmacist to enter the management system. Then it will bring the pharmacist to the login page, which the pharmacist need to enter the username and password. And by clicking the login button, the system will validate the user, which if the user is validated, it will bring them to the dashboard page. So this is the dashboard page. In dashboard page, we have the name of the pharmacist on the right top of the page, and then the number of medicines available, total supplier medicine out of stocks will be displayed. And then we also have the today's total sales, today's number of customers, and the medicine that will be soon expiring will also be displayed on the dashboard page. Next, we have the general sales list medicine page. So in this page, since in the pharmacy we have 2 types of medicine, which is GSL, general sales list, and a pharmacy medicine. So this is the first page for the type of general sales list medicine, the first type of medicine that we have in the pharmacy. So in here, the medicine details and information will be displayed. The pharmacist can also search about the medicine information in the search box, and then the pharmacist can take action whether to delete or edit the details of medicine. Next, the pharmacist can add new medicine by clicking the button, which then bring them to the add new medicine for general sales list medicine page. So in this add new general sales list medicine page, the ID will be automatically generated since it is primary key by the system. So the pharmacist will only need to enter the expiry date, description, quantity, and price of the medicine. by clicking on the Add button, it will save the new information of the general sales list medicine into the database. Next, we have the second type of medicine that we have in the pharmacy management system, which is the pharmacy medicine. In this page, the pharmacy medicine details and information will be displayed. The pharmacist can take action whether to edit or delete the medicine information, and the pharmacist can also search the medicine. The pharmacist can add the new medicine by clicking the button Add New Medicine, which then bring the pharmacist to the Add New Pharmacy Medicine page. In this Add New Pharmacy Medicine page, the ID of the pharmacy medicine will be automatically generated by the database since it is primary key, so the pharmacist will only need to enter the expiry date, description, quantity, and price. Then, by clicking on the Add button, the details and information will be saved into the database. Next, we have the customer page. In this customer page, it will only display the customer details and information that is registered, which the customer have membership of the pharmacy. So, the pharmacist can take action by edit or delete the details of customer information, and then the pharmacist can also add customers if any of the customers that came to the pharmacy wants to get membership, which then bring them to the Add Customer page. In the Add Customer page, the ID of customer will be generated since it's primary key, so new ID will be displayed, and then the pharmacist will need to enter to fill in the registration form, the name, email address, and birth date of the customer. By clicking on the Add button, it will save into the database system. Next, we have the sales page. So in this sales page, the number of today's total sales will be displayed. We have the purchase items will be displayed with the customer ID and the sales date, the amount, the quantity, and the pharmacist can also choose whether they want to see the sales for today, the past month, yesterday's, so the pharmacist can choose. Next, we have the supplier page. So in this page, all the details regarding the information of supplier that provide the medicine to the pharmacy will be displayed, which then the pharmacist can also take action by edit or delete the details of information. Then the pharmacist can add supplier by clicking the button, which then brings to the add supplier page, which the pharmacist will only need to enter the medication ID, which is the number, which is the ID of medicine, and then the name of the supplier. Since the ID of the supplier is generated automatically by the database system. Then by clicking on the Add button, it will save into the database system. Next, we have the profile. The profile for the pharmacist itself. It will display the ID, name, and email of the pharmacist. So the pharmacist can edit the details by clicking on the Edit button, which then save into database system. That's all for the mockup. Thank you. That's all from our group for the MedLife Pharmacy Management System. Thank you.